All right, and we should be recording now. And what I want to try to go over with you is comprehensive problem 2B. And so I'm going to share my screen with you. And I'm going to go through this as if I were a student, because that's the only thing I could think of that would be I would be able to help you, and hopefully this will help you. So you should be able to see my Blackboard course. Can you see my Blackboard course?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. All right, and I'm on the wrong course. How about that? I've been playing around in here all day, so let me get on the right course. All right, now we're on ACC 129, and I'm going to go to assignments, and we're going to go to chapter 3 because that's where we're starting. Now, I don't know if you can see this or not, but you got a link for the whole book right here that she set up for you. So this is a link for the book, but she's also got it set up by chapter within each chapter. And so what I want to do is I want to go to chapter 3, and I'm going to scroll down. And you see right here, there's a chapter 3 reading. Can you see that? Okay, just nod your head if you want to. That would be good. I'll try to pay attention. But this is your chapter 3 reading. And in order to get to this particular problem, you're going to have to go to that chapter to find the problem. And what one of the other students was talking about a while ago was that some of the problems have answers to them that she's provided down here. So make sure that you scroll all the way down. This is the problem that I wanted to work on today, was chapter 3, group 4, problem 2B. And unfortunately, you don't have the instructions for this right here. So what we're going to have to do is go to the chapter and find the instructions for this. But these are the forms, and I've added this form right here. Hopefully this is going to work tonight. We're getting ready to see. But what I would suggest that you do, and maybe some of you can pop in if you have a better solution to this. But what I would suggest you do is print these forms off, write them out by hand, and um, and then put them on Blackboard.
That's what I usually do.
Unfortunately, I know that sounds redundant, but there is some benefit to you writing and reading and writing and reading. So it will help you, I think, to do that. Um, what I saw was that when we go to the chapter reading where they've got the instructions, they have some forms there, but you can't fill them in. So go figure. So what I'm suggesting is that you print these off and then work them. But unfortunately, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to come back to these and click on them and print them and talk to you about them as we go. I guess that's the best way to do this. I don't know, but just bear with me. First of all, you definitely need your instructions. So to find your instructions for these problems, you're going to need to go to this chapter 3 reading link, or you could go to the entire textbook link that I showed you just a minute ago when I entered into assignments. So just click on this chapter 3 reading. And it's taking it a minute to load. And once you get into the reading, you're going to have to start the assignment now. And then you're going to have to click here to begin the reading assignment. And class, if you've been reading this chapter, it'll pick up where you left off reading, which I think was kind of interesting. But I wanted to start at the very first page of the chapter. I want you to shake your head, nod your head if you can see this first chapter page. Okay, so we're doing good so far. All right, now I'm gonna have to move y'all out of the way so I can figure out where my scroll bar is. All right, um, so I'm gonna scroll down here, and what I find was interesting is that each chapter has its own little outline of the chapter, content of the chapter. So if you'll scroll all the way down to the bottom, this is where your questions and your problems are. So I'm going to click on group 4 comprehensive problems because that's where this particular problem is. And it'll take you straight there. And this is group 4, this is comprehensive problem 1. Well, what we're doing is comprehensive problem 2B. So I'm going to scroll down here. This is 2A, so that's not the right one until I get to 2B. And here's where 2B starts. And so the person that we're going to be filling out the tax forms for is Christopher CrossFit, and he owns and operates a health club called Catawba Fitness. So he owns his own business. So the business, they tell you where it's located. It's located in Spartanburg, and they give you the business code. Now, you might have to look up a code if you're doing this on, let's say, QuickBooks or Intuit, TurboTax. You're probably going to have to look up what this code is, but in here, they give it to you. And so you're going to fill this in on the 1040 form that this is their business code. His business also has an identification number. This is the EIN, and this is his number, and this would also go on the 1040 form. And then they told you that he had the following income and expenses. This is an income statement. So if you're in accounting, you're familiar with revenue. This is the revenue that the company made, and these are all the expenses that that company had for this particular year. Now notice this business is using the cash basis of accounting, and it has no accounts receivable or inventory held for resale. This part right here, inventory held for resale, is really important, which means that you don't have to fill out on Schedule C the cost of goods sold. They didn't have any inventory. If you've got inventory that you're selling in a business, if you're a retail type of business and you're selling inventory to customers, then you'd have to fill out the cost of goods sold section that is on Schedule C. So we don't have to worry about doing at least that part of Schedule C. The only part of Schedule C that you'll have to do is the part that relates to the revenue and the expenses. And all of this is laid out for you here. Now, class, what I tried to do is I tried to print these instructions so that I would have them with the manual printed forms that I had so I could write down everything and go through it. But I want to caution you, when you print it, sometimes it doesn't print all the information for the problems. They have pictures that are embedded in some of these, and so all the information does not print. For example, I'm going to go back off of this problem for just a second, just to tell you what I'm talking about. I saw a student had turned in some work, and she didn't have anything about this on her problem that she turned in. And I feel like it's probably because when she printed this didn't print. And I guess it's a picture. So just be careful when you're printing these to make sure that everything that you need has been printed in that particular problem. It left a big blank for mine. And so I had to go back and try to figure out, well, she's right. There's no place to look at that. I mean, I remembered seeing it, but I don't know why it's not there. But it was just as soon as I printed it, I could see why that student did not see that. So that's just another little tip on doing these problems. And that's a quirk, unfortunately, of having an ebook. Hopefully, you all bought the actual book itself, and then you have all the information right there in front of you, which is much easier. But I know that we're going toward the ebooks now, and so I just wanted to caution you about that. But getting back to this problem, this is uh, a sole proprietor is doing basically his own little business, and you need an income statement from the business. So you would ask the business owner for his revenue and his expenses, and hopefully he'll give you an income statement like this, or maybe you will have him contact his accountant to make him an income statement so that at least you'll have some place to go when you're filling out the taxes for this. They're using the cash method, which I find interesting because a lot of companies use the accrual basis of accounting. But under the cash method, there's going to be no accounts receivable. That's why it says that there. And then it tell you that Chris has the following interest income for the year. He has interest from a savings account and interest from a bond portfolio. Both of these are taxable items and they are considered interest. And so you're going to need to put those on a separate schedule. And that schedule is called, let's see, Schedule B, interest and ordinary dividends. So Schedule B you're going to use for this part of the problem here. Also, it tells you that Chris also is a broker of antique and rare books. He acquires and scavenges the books and then sells them on the internet. He generated 4,000 of sales in 2019, and the books he sold cost 3,500. He also incurred 7,600 in travel and other expenses related to this activity. Chris has never turned a profit in the book business, but he loves books and book selling and does not mind losing money for it. So, what this is, it's not really a separate business that he has here. This is what we would call a hobby income. And the rules for hobby income are different from the rules for a person that has their own business. So there's going to be a separate schedule that we have to fill out showing the amount of the hobby income. Also, if it's hobby income, if you'll read in your textbook, they don't consider travel and other expenses, this $7,600, to be anything that's deductible. This hobby income, what they do say is that you could record a revenue of 4,000 in sales, but it cost him 3,500 for those books. So really he only made a profit of like $500 here. Does that make sense? And it is hobby income, but it is profit. The government wants all your tax dollars that they can get. So if you've got a hobby that you do, you got to report that as income if you're making money off of it. And so in this case, this is a hobby type of income. Also, it says that Chris has been a widower for 10 years and he has a dependent son, Arnold. And they gave his social security number because on the tax forms now, when you record dependents, you have to know what their social security number is. He files his tax return as head of household. That's because he's a widower, he's single, and he's got a dependent that he can claim as a dependent. And so that makes him file as head of household. You may be familiar with married filing jointly. I guess this person could have, if he chose to, file single, but he'd pay more taxes that way. So since he's got a dependent, then he's claiming that he's going to be head of household. Also, it's important to know how old the dependent is. And in this case, he was born in 2001. I'm assuming they're using 2020 for this. He'd be 19 years old. and he does not qualify for the child tax credit, but he does qualify for $500 dependent credit. That's important that they gave to you. There's a difference between the child tax credit and the dependent credit. So we're going to have to find a place where we can record this dependent credit, and that would be on your 1040 form. Um, it says that they live next door to the health club at 4323 New Cut Road, and Chris does all the administrative work for the health club out of an office in his home. And then they give you information about a home office. And the room is 171 square feet, and the house had a total of 1,800 square feet. So you've got to divide 1,800 into 171 to get a percentage of the expenses that he incurs that he can take toward that home office. And he can take rent and he can take utilities, but he can only take a portion of that. So the other thing that they had listed down here is Chris's social security number, and that he made a tax payment to the IRS of $500 on April 15th of 2019. A lot of times, class, when you start your own business, you probably need to pay some taxes up front so that you can either get a refund back or apply it to next year's tax return. One of those two things you can do with this. And so if you own your own business, they'll ask you to make estimated tax payments to the IRS. It's better to make those tax payments up front. And then at the end of the year, when you file the tax return, maybe you'll get some of that back. And in this case, this is like a prepaid tax payment is the way I like to look at it. And so if it's a prepaid tax payment, we have to have a schedule for that also, where we're going to claim that amount. So I'm going to leave this up on the screen here so we can refer back to it. But I'm going to stop sharing this, and I'm going to make us a new share. And I'm going to try to go to where your forms are on your problem. Let's see if I can find those. Okay, that's not the one. Bear with me just a minute and I'll see if I can find it. I was hoping I could hold it there, but I don't think I can. So hang tight. We'll try something new here. Bear with me. No, that's not what I want there. You don't need to be looking at this, but I'm going to try to see if I can get to. I'm going to try to see if I can get back to. Oh, it stopped, didn't it? Oh, goodness. Okay. Well, just hang tight with me for just a minute till I can figure out where my stuff is. Okay. All right. Okay. Are you back with me? Shake your head. Sorry about that. I'm going back to my assignment, and we're looking at Group 4, problem 2B. This is where your forms are for this problem. And so I'm going to do this on the fly, so hopefully this will work. I'm going to open up the first form. And you should be able to see the 1040 form. Can you see that there? Okay. This is where you'd fill in the information about that person and all of this information here. So let me see if I can flip back. Okay. The first name was Christopher.
Yes. Christopher. The last name was CrossFit, but it was spelled CROSPHIT.
Thank you.
Social 565 126789. Address 4323 New Cut Road. It's going to be Spartanburg.
Spartanburg. Y'all know how to spell. Thank you. I can't speak tonight. Y'all know how to spell that out, don't you?
Yeah. SPARTANBURG.
All right.
So,
Okay. And we're not doing anything for the presidential election. We were trying to forget about all that. If more than 4 dependents, no. Can you claim someone as a spouse? No. Someone can't claim you as a dependent or a spouse. You don't need any of that in there. But you did have a dependent.
yes.
So
Arnold.
okay, we're going to skip down here and we're going to put down Arnold. And he's going to
CrossFit. And
he had a
social
social security number and that was given in your problem.
276 23 3954. And it was son
Okay.
and then credit for other dependents.
And that's right, because they told you that in the instructions that there was a credit for the other dependents. And so that's what would be entered there. All right. Now, he doesn't earn a wage from a company. He has his own business. So you don't fill out anything on line 1. So you're going to skip to line 2 and look through line 2 to see what all is there. And there's some taxable interest here, which you have to attach Schedule B to this. So there was some interest according to the instructions for this problem. And so what you want to do is you're going to attach Schedule B. So you need to fill out Schedule B. So I'm going to see if it will allow me to do that. So hang tight with me. I'm going to go off of here again. And we'll see if I can go back to the previous page. Are you with me?
Yes.
Can you see what I'm doing?
Yes.
Here we go again. This is going to be fun. So this is Schedule B, which is your interest and ordinary dividends. And so you would want to record that interest on this schedule before you entered it in line 2B. And so let me get to...
That was
okay.
the Upper Piedmont Savings Bank account.
Yes, and that's what they gave you. So that's what you need to fill in.
So Upper Piedmont Savings Bank savings account. And it was for 13,000.
Yes, that was for 13,000.
And then there was one for Morgan Bank bond portfolio interest. and that was for 12,075.
12,075.
Yes.
All right. And you combine the two of those together,
25,075.
and that goes on line two. 25,075. All right. And we didn't have any of this. It didn't mention any of this. And you subtract line three from line two, which means that you got the same amount here, 25,075.
Yes.
And then you follow the instructions here. Enter the result here on 1040, line 2B. Do you see where that is? All right, so we got to go back to line the 1040 form. So I'm going to flip over to the 1040 form. Can you see that? Good. Okay. Well, we're working a little bit here. And we're going to enter in the amount that we just completed for Schedule B.
2575.
Okay. And that's what goes on line two. We didn't have any of these other things. So you just kind of scroll through and read each one of these separately until you get to something that you might have. And what we did have in this problem was, let me put my comma in there. What we did have in this problem was some income from the business, and we had hobby income. So other income is the only place that we could find this. So we're going to need to fill out Schedule 1, and it says line 9. So we need to go to Schedule 1. And technically, before you do Schedule 1, line 9, you've got to do Schedule C. So I'm going to go back again. And I'm going to pick up Schedule 1, I believe it was, and also Schedule C. So I'm going to pick up Schedule 1. We'll just look at it because you're going to have to do Schedule C first, if I remember correctly. This is Schedule 1. Can you see that? Shake your head. All right. The additional income that we were talking about on that line on the 1040, what you would need to do is you would need to record that you had some business income or loss. You're going to attach Schedule C right here. So before we can fill that in, we need to know what happened with Schedule C. We also have to look down here at other income, and you have to list your hobby income here. And the hobby income is just from your instructions on your problem.
Now that's just what he received from selling the books, right?
Right. That
So
was
that's
the,
3,500.
and so I'm just going to put hobby income here from selling books. So you'll know what we're talking about. Is that okay there? And it's the difference between what he sold them for and they cost him. And so it's going to be $500 that would go here. Are you okay with that? It was a profit, so this has to be a positive number here. Now, we need to attach Schedule C because this person also was the owner of their own business. So I'm going to go back to my problem in Blackboard, and I'm going to pick up Schedule. I'm going to pick up Schedule C. And again, you got to put down the name of the business on this schedule. And so he had his own.
So we would put his name for the proprietor and then do the principal
That's
business.
correct. That's what you would do.
Okay. So
So
would be Catawba Fitness.
Yeah, the owner of the business goes here, and it would have been Christopher here. Christopher, whatever his name was, CrossFit.
CrossFit.
And
Mm,
then the business name would go in here, and that would be Catawba Fitness. And they also gave the social security number of this person. You could
yes.
enter it there, and that was in the instructions. And the
Five
code was there too. Go ahead.
565
565.
126789, and then your business code
Uh huh.
812190.
All right. And he had an EIN number too, I
One,
believe.
two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, nine.
That makes it easy there. Okay. And again, you put in his address or whatever
He,
for this, or the business address.
which would have been 4321 New Cut Drive or Road.
Okay.
Was,
So right here, we put that it was a health club, and his name was Catawba Fitness. And then the address goes down here.
4321 New Cut Road.
And you fill in the name of the town. And that would have been, let's see, and whatever the zip code was.
29303.
Right. Okay. And then in your instructions, they told you that he was using the cash basis. And then you have to fill in these questions here. Did you materially participate in the operation of the business? And the answer to that is yes, he did, because he was the owner and he, you know, did all the work for that particular business. And so that's what you would put there. Evidently, he'd been in business for a while, so that was skipped. And this is asking you if you've had any employees that did work for you. You would need to fill out a form 1099 for them and send it to them so that they could charge that as income on their tax return. But form 1099 would be to like miscellaneous contractors, or somebody that they hired to do something specific for the business. Um, it's not an employee. We're not talking about regular employees here that we're paying. It would just be somebody that needed a form 1099 form to show that they had earned income that would go on their tax return. All right, and then you start with the income portion. And since this was a business where he was charging a service, his receipts, that would be on your problem
That would be the income
instructions.
of 216,000, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna flip back over there. Can you see I flip back to that other place? 216,000 is the income. Now let me see if I can find where I was. There we go. Hopefully y'all can see this.
Yes.
And so this is 216,000. Okay, they weren't selling any inventory, so there's no returns or allowances. You don't need to worry about that. And then line 3 is subtract line 2 from line 1. Well, we didn't have anything on line 2, so it's still going to be 216,000. In other words, that was the total amount of the revenue for this particular company. Now, in part 4, you would fill out the cost of goods sold. But since this problem, they were not selling goods, they didn't have any inventory to sell. So you wouldn't fill out this cost of goods sold section at all. But if you were a merchandising business and you were selling inventory to earn a profit, then you had to buy the inventory before you could get it sold, then that would go in the cost of goods sold. This is a service type of business, and they didn't have any cost of services according to this. So if there's no cost of goods sold here, the gross profit is going to be the same as the revenue. And so you just bring this down. Does that make sense? All right. And then other income you would list here. So if you had different types of revenue, there was only one type of revenue for this particular company, but if you had different types, you could list this here. And so they want you to figure up the total amount of the revenue or the gross income for this company, which is still 216,000. Does that make sense? Then look on your income statement. Look under operating expenses. Do you see something for advertising that would be given?
Yes. 5,200.
And the amount's 5,200. Okay. And I just go line by line. Were there any car or truck expenses?
No.
I didn't see any either
No.
when I did it. Commissions and fees?
That would be your payrolls, right?
No.
No.
Actually, that would be if you paid someone a commission
Oh,
or
okay.
some type, or they charged you some type of fee to do something. I'm not real sure what that would be about, but that's about the
Okay.
best I can give you for that one.
All right. So then
Um,
no.
no, I wouldn't put the employees' wages there. There's a place for that, a better place. And right down here is where you got wages.
I see that
So
now.
that's where you put the wages. Um, so
No commission
commission,
and fees.
and there's no contract labor
No.
depletion. That's for depletable assets like forest and um, anything you could take out of the ground like coal or uh, water you could deplete, I guess. We didn't have any of those. We weren't that type of business. We were service business mainly. Um, and they didn't mention anything about him owning any assets, which I thought was kind of strange
Yeah.
because
Owning a business.
probably if as a business owner, you probably have this one here. If you owned any assets and you depreciated those, that would go here. There's probably saving that for another chapter. Is what I'm thinking. I don't remember seeing
Probably.
anything about depreciation in this chapter. Employee benefit programs other than on line 19, which is pension and profit sharing plans. Um, that
I
could
didn't see
be,
none.
I didn't see any of that either. So you just kind of go down through here to see if that's something
Insurance.
other than health. Was there like uh, I don't get it.
Business
It would have
insurance.
just said insurance on it. It has to say insurance on the expense portion of that.
3,600.
Okay, so there was some of that. And then on line 16, there was no mortgage that he mentioned,
Nope.
mortgage interest or any other thing that would be related to a
No.
mortgage. Legal and professional fees, No. Other expenses. Now this category,
18.
excuse me, I'm sorry, that says office expenses. It's getting late, isn't it? Check to see if there are any office expenses. Were there?
I put that under all like office supplies, which was 3,300.
Okay, office supplies is an expense, and that's what they're calling this here. Instead of it being as an asset, like we teach you in accounting.
But we
But I
we
have a
have a we
supplies
have a supply line also
on
on line
22.
22.
Yeah.
Okay, you have one on 22
So,
supplies. Okay, well, it could go either place. That's what I would say.
I was gonna say we've got equipment rent. Wouldn't that be an office expense?
No, because that's on line 20. You have
Right.
rent or lease.
Yeah, it goes on
And
line
and
20.
actually, let me tell you something. Office supplies don't go over there, and I know because Engage market wrong when I try it.
Did it?
So what
Okay.
I used over there, it was something like copies and I will say like miscellaneous or something like that.
Okay. All right. It's probably stuff for like papers and
Yeah.
well, that might be some.
Telephone.
Yeah. Well, the telephone actually, I would thought would have gone with wages, or excuse me, with utilities down here, line 25.
Yeah.
That's where I would put my telephone expense. Um, I'm not the government, and I'm
What
not.
about the
I've
cleaning
never
service?
been through an auditing thing, but as far as I can tell, they've got other expenses down here. As long as you listed the expenses that you have on that income statement, you can't go wrong. Um, but they did put in the answer key that this was 3,300. So was there an office expense of 3,300 that you saw?
I seen just the office supplies.
Okay. And that's where I said it was an expense, and I didn't put it down here.
Okay.
Now it says supplies that are not included in part 3.
Which is
Let's see what part 3. That's cost of goods
cost of goods
sold.
sold.
Yeah. Okay. So they didn't want you to include it twice, I guess is what they're trying to say there. You have to remember that our government wrote this out, and so that, you know, some of it may not make sense. Okay. But anyway, were there any pension and profit sharing plans on this one?
No.
I didn't see any either. All right. So we're going down here to rent or lease.
Well, we've
And
got. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
okay, I've got 22,820 here.
Yep. For the machinery.
Yep.
Yep. And then what about the other business property, which is because there's a rent for 32,600.
And that would go there too.
Okay.
Okay. And
And
so they
then
just separated those out. I'm not really sure why. It looks like they would just put rent expense and combine the two and just be done with it. You know what I'm saying? But
people can't make things simple though.
they can't make it simple.
No.
There's nothing about our tax system that is simple. And
All right. So then the maintenance.
repairs and maintenance, you probably got something like that.
10,720.
Okay, 10,720.
Mhm.
Do you see where that's coming from?
What about the cleaning service? Would that be included in that?
You could put that separate, but quite frankly, when I did this problem, I combined it,
That's what
put it there because it was maintenance. That's why I looked at it.
That's how I seen it too. So we were thinking the
So
same.
we were on the same page there, but they put it separate. But in the end,
Where do you put it at then?
in other expenses,
Well, they had other expenses listed out.
right down
1830.
here, part 5 is where they put it.
Down there. Okay.
Down here. So if anything you couldn't fit in this category here, if as long as you put it down here, it's going to end up as total expenses down here because you're going to combine all that together. Do you understand what I'm saying?
It's
Not
gonna come
really.
out the same anyways,
It's going to come out the same anyway.
no matter
Yeah.
what you do,
No
because
matter
you're,
what you do. Yeah, so
yeah.
you can't go wrong.
Even if you combine them and put them on line 21 and don't put them in part 5, it
You would still come
still
out right.
have got it calculated for both of them.
Right. Yeah. So you can't go wrong with that. So as an instructor, I might mark it wrong, but then you could argue with me and say, well,
It's
if I
right.
put it down there, it's the same thing. I mean, and it is.
That's how I feel.
That's the way I feel too. Now, I'm not an auditor, so I don't know,
I ain't
but
never been through
I
one.
ain't never been through an audit, and I don't think they would audit you on that, and they wouldn't have a leg to stand on.
Mm-mm.
As long as you got documentation that you paid that expense, you'll be all right. Enough of that, right? Can we
Yes.
move on then?
We got taxes.
Yeah, taxes and license.
Um,
So, were there any payroll taxes?
9,112.
9,112.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question on that.
Okay.
And well, but that wasn't engaged. I was adding the taxes,
Uh-huh.
but it keeps saying that I got the wrong answer. So I don't know if I was
Okay.
supposed to add
Now,
something else.
there's another problem that has license separate and taxes, and you combine the two of them together. Are you referring to another problem that you might have done?
Oh yes, yes. That's one. That was part of the questions that I had when I was doing my homework, because I kept getting the wrong answer at the end. Honestly, I just leave it like that, and I said, "Well, I really don't know what else to do."
Well, ask. Shoot me an email when you get to that point, and I'll tell
Okay.
you.
All
Okay.
right.
I'll be glad to share because
You don't mind helping.
I do not
Oh,
mind
thank
helping.
you. I didn't know who to call. I was like, "Oh my God, who can I ask about this?" Because I keep
Just
getting the wrong answer over and over and over.
okay,
And I
send
said,
me a
"You know what?
message, and
Just
I will be glad to get back with you on that.
okay.
Because
Thank
there
you."
was a problem that I did where I combined both of those together. There was like license and taxes were
Yes.
separate, and you had to combine them together.
Okay. All right.
Okay, but on this particular problem, if we look back at our, okay, let me see if I can find it. If we look back at our, yeah, here we go. This is where you would look for
Mhm.
taxes, and there's your payroll taxes right there. I don't see any license with this one, but there could have been a separate license. So you got to look through all your expenses to find that. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So let me go back to Schedule C. All right. Okay. And then on this next part here.
24A was 2420 for travel.
Okay. 2420 was for travel.
And there was no meal deductibles.
Okay, well, that's a good thing, I guess. They had some rules for that too, I think, in this chapter.
Yeah, you can
You can
only
only
claim
take
50%.
50%. Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
You can only claim what you're
About
paying. Like
that.
if you take a client out to eat, you can only claim what you paid for them. You can't receive what you got for yourself.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. And then we go on to utilities.
I combined the utilities and the telephone together.
That works. How much did it come up?
16,753.
Okay, well, they didn't in the answer key. They put telephone separate, I think.
Down
It's
there at the
13.
bottom.
Yeah, 13,975. And then for other, let me check, just make sure. Yeah, they had telephone in the other down at the
Okay.
bottom. So they just use the utilities there, but I did the same thing, so don't feel bad. And to me, telephone is a
2778.
utility bill.
Yeah,
So I don't see how they could have argued with that either, as long as you didn't put it down twice.
right. Well, that's gonna be down at the bottom then.
Yep.
And
And
then wages.
I'm sorry, where the telephone expense goes?
It
okay,
goes on part 5 where we do our other expenses.
right here.
Oh, so it will be all together? Okay.
Yep, that's like where your cleaning service, your telephone, your subscription, that kind of stuff will go.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Anything that doesn't fit in the blocks, put
Mhm.
it as other.
That's other, okay.
Yeah. And I think cleaning was 8775.
Yep,
And then there was the telephone we just run into.
2778.
That would have been another 2778. That's right. And going back up, wages. It looks like we had some wages.
98,900.
Right. And I think that was just a given. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
that was your payroll.
I got to get on there so I can get it right. 98,900. All right. And then here's where that other expenses comes from. So you got to go down. And you're going to fill in the rest of those that you didn't take as other expenses. All of your expenses have to be recorded, in other words.
So then you would have, I guess, the special workout clothing and boxing gloves, subscription to Biceps Monthly magazine, educational seminar on weight training, and then other expenses on top of that.
Yep. You
Okay. Are you there?
Did I lose you?
There you are.
Uh,
Are you understanding it, Bernie?
I'm sorry, I was on mute. No, I cannot hear anything.
Oh, are you understanding like where the other
Oh,
expenses and everything?
yes, yes.
Yes. Okay. I knew you had questions on it, so.
No, now I cannot recall the questions that I had, I guess, while we are walking. But if you don't mind, next time I will send you a message and ask you, because
I was gonna
sometimes I don't
say
know who to ask.
if you've got a list, just make a list and send it, and
Mhm.
just send me an email. I don't mind helping.
Thank you so much. I
You're
appreciate.
welcome. I know it can be a struggle, and I'm doing taxes, and I'm 1099, but my boss is a teacher to me also.
Yeah.
So if I have questions and I can't figure something out, I can always call him.
And that is good because you are working on that already. But because the practice, I guess, that's where you learn most. But in my case, all
Getting in
this
it, and
is new
what she
for
was
me.
saying about printing them out, it is a lot easier to do it that way. Print them out, fill them out. That way, if you make mistakes, you don't have to keep second guessing yourself on the computer, and you've got it ready to go.
Yeah. Okay.
I think she came back. You're muted.
unmute.
There
I'm
you
not
go.
muted anymore.
There you go.
All right. I don't know what happened there, except it's been an hour and they kicked me off. So hopefully we can go on with this. I don't know what it's done to the recording, but
It says
anyway,
it's still recording.
it's what it says. So
We'll see.
sorry about that. Now let me see if I can get where I was. Hmm. Can you see anything there? Okay. So let me get to the right schedule. Okay. Now, I was trying to put in the rest of part 5 for you. This was
That
apparel.
was the special workout clothing and boxing gloves.
Yeah, out clothing. And that was
$780.
$780.
You got a mistake up on telephone. The
Oh
number.
yeah, I do. It's 2,700 and 78. I don't know what I did, but I did something wrong there. 278. There we go. Thank you for catching that.
You're welcome. I know you always tell us check our answer.
That's right. And then we had some education expenses, continuing education. Did you see something like that?
The educational seminar on weight training?
Yeah.
Yes. And that was 770.
And that's correct.
And then other. Hold on.
Okay, subscriptions.
Yep, subscriptions for 120.
And then we had miscellaneous.
Yes. Other expenses 1830.
Okay. And what I do, class, is I check them off as I go, just to make sure I've got all of them written down. It's a good idea to do that, I think. And now you want to total the other expenses. You're just going to add all these up.
15,053.
And that 15,000, you see where it goes? It goes on line 27A. So you're going to scroll back up to line 27A. And you're going to put those other expenses there, which was 15,053. And then you're going to total the expenses on line 28. And what you would do is add all these expenses up, and it should.
217,700.
That's correct. 217,700 goes here. So this company has a little problem because notice their revenue was less than their expenses. So they had a loss. So it's going to be a loss. You're going to subtract line 28 from line 7. And it's going to come up a negative
17.
And so I would probably put that in parentheses so you'll know that's a negative $1,700. So this company had a loss. Do you understand what I did there? So it's really just taking the revenue and subtracting all the expenses, just like you had on that income statement that they gave you. And this is the difference between those. This company had a loss. And then notice here, we've got expenses for the business use of your home. So we need to figure out whether he had any business expenses.
All right. So his total square feet of the house was 1,800.
Right. But that's got to go on a form. So let's go back and find the form.
8829.
Yeah. And we're right here. Got to open that thing up.
Fill out his name.
A lot of redundant stuff here. Can you fill out his name? Would you be all right doing that?
Yes.
Social security number? Can we get down to business here?
Yes.
All right, let's move on to the better part of this. where we need to use the area used as the total square footage.
Mm,
No, it isn't. The area that you use would be the part you use for your home office.
171.
171, but they did give you that.
Yes.
And then the total area of the home is the
Was
total square footage of the home.
1800.
1800. And if you divide 1800 into 171, it gives you
10.52.
okay, I got 9.5%. 171 divided by 1800.
0.95.
Yeah. But if you change it to percentage, it would be 9.5%. Does that make sense? 171 divided by 1800 is 0.095, which converted to a percentage is 9.5%. And this was not a daycare, so we didn't have to fill in line 4. And we're not a daycare here, so we didn't have to do that. So the next thing would just be to bring that percentage down from line 3. 9.5%. And then this caught me here, class. I thought that the what was it, the rent expense for that person paid. Check your
20,000.
yeah, I put it as a direct expense, but I was wrong, and I found out because it didn't make sense to me. The rest of this form didn't. It is an indirect expense. So if you've got like was there a mortgage on this one?
Deductible. No, he paid rent. He paid 20,000 a year.
That's right, he did.
So
So it
that would
wasn't
go
on
in.
this. It's not on this part, but it's on. Yes, it goes down here with rent. Do you see where
Yes,
rent is on 19? But you have to put it in part D. They consider this to be an indirect expense. And I went back in your chapter and I looked for that, and it's clearly in the chapter. They wrote it down that rent is an indirect expense. So I didn't know the definition of that. So you might want to check on that because that was something that bothered me. And then they had some utilities. Is that correct? For 4,000?
Yes, 4,000.
Yeah. So they had some heat and
Is that indirect, I guess?
it is indirect also. Yeah. So you might want to go back and check for the definition of that indirect expense, but it definitely goes in this column here. And it's utilities, and that's on line 21. 4,000. Oops. And then you're going to have to add line 16 through 22. And that goes on line 23.
Would that be indirect, I guess, for 2,400 or 24,000?
Yeah, you're just adding the column there. Yep. And then here's where you're going to multiply this by what you got as 9.5% from line 7. So 24,000, I'm going to put that in my calculator, and I'm going to multiply it by 0.095, and that will give you 2,280.
Yes.
All right, and we didn't have any carryover that we knew about. And we're going to add line 23, column A.
There was nothing.
There was nothing there.
And then line
24, which
22.
was the total of those, and line 25, which was nothing. And so that would be 2,280. So we're adding 24 and nothing there because there wasn't anything in column A on line 23. I'm sorry, what?
Sorry, that was my kid.
Oh, okay. All right. Then allowable operating expenses, you're going to enter the smaller of line 15 or line 26. And
The 15 was 0, right?
15 was 0, yeah. Because we didn't have anything in there at all. All right. And so you're going to enter the smaller, which is 0. And you just keep going down the form reading. The rest of these are zeros. So what they're saying to you is you can't take this as this year's expenses for home office. It amounted to 0, but you can take that and add it to next year's items to see if you will be able to take a home office deduction for this. Okay. When you subtract 27 from 15, that gives you 0 here. And then we didn't depreciate our home, which you could have, but they didn't. And I guess they'll tell us about that when we get to the chapter on depreciation. So we're going to end up down here on line 34. Are you with me? And it's still going to be 0. And then that carries on down to line 36 is 0. And so part 3, we didn't depreciate anything, so we don't fill out any of this. And then operating expenses, you would subtract line 27, which was 0, from line 26, which was 2280. And so that goes here, 2280. And
that one would be 0.
That would be 0. Yes, that's true. Okay. All right, so we had 2280 there. See here. Hang tight with me for just a minute. Yeah, that's going to end up on your nope, you can't take it because it says enter here and on schedule C line 30. So it was 0 right here. So we've got to put that on schedule C. So let me see if I can find schedule C. And for home office, we couldn't put anything on line 30 of schedule C.
Miss Rhonda, I'm gonna have to hop off here. I've got to get
That's
my kids
fine.
in the bed.
That's fine.
All right. Thank you.
If you have any questions at all, just shoot me an email.
Okay, I will.
All right.
All right.
Okay. So this would be 0 on 30. And then what we would do is we would subtract line 30 from 29, and we're still going to come up with 1,700 as a negative amount because it was a loss. Do you follow what I did there? And then you have to fill out 32 because you had a loss. You must go to line 32. If you have a loss, you got to check one of these things off, and all of his investments are at risk. And so that's how you fill out Schedule C. It's basically an income statement, revenues minus your expenses. But then they throw in this stuff for home office. So you got to figure out if you can take that or not. So this 1,700 is going to end up going back to your 1040 form. See, that's Schedule B, wrong one. That's Schedule 1. Okay, where's my 1040 form? There we go. Okay, and so all of that needs to be recorded on the 1040 form as, okay, we got to fill out Schedule 1. If you'll remember, we had to do Schedule C first, and then we put it on Schedule 1. So let me go back to Schedule 1 so we can fill out Schedule 1. All right, on Schedule 1, Part 1, business income or loss right here, and we have attached Schedule C. We're going to put the minus 1,200 in there, or excuse me, minus 1,700 from Schedule C. Do you understand where that's coming from? All right, and then we had that hobby income, so we got to combine the two of these together. This is a negative and this is a positive. So when we combine it, we still have an overall loss, but it's $1,200 now. Do you see how I got that?
Yes.
And this 1,200 goes on your 1040 form. And so that goes here in 7A, and it goes in as a negative amount. Okay. All right. And so on 7B, we need to add lines 1, 2B. Well, that's all we got is 2B and 7A together. You got to combine them together. And when you do that, you would subtract 1,200 from this, and that will leave you with 23,875. All right, and then you need to look to see if there are any adjustments to income from Schedule 1. And so I don't believe we had any adjustments to income on this particular one. And so your adjusted gross income will be 23,875. Do you follow what I did there?
Yes.
Now you're going to take the standard deduction, and this would be, he's head of household, if you'll remember, which is 18,350. And then we didn't have anything to go on line 10. We're going to add lines 9 and 10 together. So we'll still have the standard deduction of 18,350. And then you're going to subtract the standard deduction to find your taxable income, which is 5,200 or 5,525. And this you're going to look up on your tax table. And I believe you'll have to go back to Blackboard to be able to do that, to find the tax table. And so I'm going to go back to Blackboard. And did they give you a, maybe it's somewhere else. Is it in your problem instructions where the tax table is? I think I Googled it.
We have it on the book in the very back. I have the hard, uh, the
The hard
physical
copy
book.
of the book?
Yeah.
Okay. So what you would do is you would look up
Mm-hmm.
the 5,525, go down the list till you find 5,000 and make it fit
Okay.
5,525 and go across until you get to the head
Head
of
of
household.
household.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is 553.
Okay. And that would go in as the tax. That's correct. It's $553 is the tax.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And let's see. Schedule 2. I didn't have anything for that, but we did have the child tax credit. Remember? That was in the instructions.
Yeah,
That was 500.
500.
Because he had one son that he could take for that. And I apologize, but this 553 goes there too. So you just bring that down here.
Mm-hmm.
And then this would be deducted from this. So you're going to subtract.
So it will be $53.
Yep. But what they put here was 500 in 13B because you're adding in line 14 is $53. Let's see here. 13A. Okay. So it's 500 here. This is 53. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Have I lost you? You're okay with that? All right.
Mm-hmm.
And technically, you probably would have had some self-employment tax, but they didn't tell you what that was. And then you continue on down to there was one more thing we had to include, and that came from Schedule 3, line 14. So at the very bottom of this problem, there was another $500 amount that they mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And that $500, let me see, let me get you out of the way here.
The prepaid taxes.
Yes, that's it. Uh-huh. It was right down at the bottom here about the prepaid taxes. That's where that
Mm-hmm.
$500 comes into play, right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that would be entered on line 18D.
Okay.
Let me get back to the right place. All right. And so that goes there. And since that was like a prepaid tax, then
Mm-hmm.
that's going to cause you to get a refund, or
Mm-hmm.
you can apply it toward next year's taxes, whatever you choose to do.
Mm-hmm.
Is where what would happen with that. But you're going to add lines 18A through D, and that's 500. Just bring that over here. And then you're going to add lines 17 and 18E. We didn't have anything on 17, 18. So line 19 would be 500 again. And then if line 19 is more than line 16, which it is, and actually that should say if line 19 is more than line 16, which it is, subtract 16 from 19. This is the amount that you overpaid. Okay. I didn't pull that down there. It should have been on line 16. Your total tax right here should be on line 16. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
So this is what you owed, but you made a prepayment ahead of time. So the difference between those is what would be refunded to you, which is $447. And you could put it here as an amount that you want refunded to you and fill in all the information here. Or you could also apply it down here somewhere. There's a place where you can apply that, I believe, right here, line 20. So it could have gone there too. But the answer key just shows 447 is going to be refunded to you. And that's it.
Okay.
That was enough, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I hope I didn't put you to sleep.
No. Okay. Thank you, Miss Rhonda.
Thank you. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. Thanks.
Bye-bye.